What's going on, everybody? So I am making this video today for the new homebrewers. It's definitely still good for the veteran homebrewers to make sure they're not missing anything as well. But without further ado, let's go over the top 8 things I could find based on what I think will affect a lot of the newer homebrewers to look out for. There are more, but without getting too much into the weeds or nitpicking, these are kind of the more higher level things I could think of, and I hope this helps you with your first brew. Go ahead and get started and get brewing. Um, so the first one is especially good for homebrewers is just going too wild with your first recipe. It's 2021, a lot of different craft beers out there, a lot of crazy styles. The limits have been pushed, and I'm sure they're going to get pushed further. That makes the veteran craft beer drinkers want to be a veteran craft beer brewer right away off the bat. Well, you might be able to make a good one off the rip like that, or make something just as good, maybe. But a lot of times, a lot of those things need a little more TLC to it to make it better. So go with a more balanced beer and just aim for something drinkable. A nice amber ale, an easy hopped IPA, just like a four-staged hop situation sort of thing. Not too crazy. Just take it easy. Don't make anything crazy, and you don't have to do a decoction or something like that. Just make it easy on yourself. Trust me. Next is worrying too much. So a lot of folks will try to, blow up the homebrew channels on Facebook and say, "Oh, this my airlock's not bubbling. It's not working. Something's wrong." Just relax and wait for it to start bubbling. It'll be fine. And don't open up the fermenter and take a look either. Just give it some time. Sometimes you might need to wait until that's starts bubbling. And another thing that they might try to do is, like I said, open it up, and then you're letting oxygen inside. So that's also something you want to stay away from. Next is using bad water. So I have different videos on here for living on a septic field and septic and well type of water system here in my house, and there's suggestions for that. But if you use bad water, you're gonna get bad beer. So you can't just turn it into good beer, or turn it into good beer from bad water. Um, you really have to make sure if it's drinkable. If you can't sip it directly, it's not good water. So that should be your really biggest indicator. If you're just used to hard water and don't mind iron in the water, and it's okay to you, well, then maybe that test won't work for you. But you need to make sure the water is good and doesn't have iron and stuff like that. It's not hard water. Um, Next is under pitching the yeast. So let's go back to the first one, going overboard. Let's say you go wild and try to brew a 1090 sort of gravity beer. If you're not familiar with what that is yet, it's going to be a high ABV beer. Okay, but if you just have one packet of yeast, you're going to be under pitching it and stress the yeast out and have some bad flavors. Is what's going to happen there. So you really want to make sure you're matching the recipe with the yeast pitch as well. That's in the books that I've suggested before by John Palmer, stuff like that. And Designing Great Beers is another great book. But make sure that each yeast pitch is healthy. Next one is not cleaning or sanitizing properly. This is where you get your infections mostly. It's hard to get an infection if you clean it well and sanitize it well. So I always use the PBW cleaner, but also the Star San sanitizer. And basically, with those two alone, you should be good to go. Now, I still use the plastic fermenters. So the keys with those is to not use like something abrasive that when you clean it, that will scratch it, because that scratch over time start collecting bacteria. I usually rinse it out the best I can with just water alone, and then use the spray function if I can. But then once a lot of the chunks are off, I use a wet paper towel to slightly kind of rub off any yeast trub and stuff like that after cleaning off the fermenter. So what that means is just try to be a little more gentle, I guess. I haven't had an infection for years. The last one I had was with a brand new to me used corny keg, I should have taken it apart and cleaned out the pieces and stuff like that. So keep that in mind as well with your used corny kegs, especially if you just bought them new, or if you've had a used one for a while. Make sure that's also cleaned out really well. Um, Another one is not too common these days, I feel like, because I feel like a lot of the homebrew stores have a lot of good stuff, is make sure your ingredients are new and fresh. Make sure that they're fresh and not, especially more hops are going to be your biggest issue there. Make sure they're not brown or cheesy smelling. But also the yeast, make sure that's also within its expiration date. The liquid yeast, especially a dry yeast, is usually actually kind of fine, even if it's a little bit past it. When in doubt, though, make a yeast starter. But if it's a liquid yeast, I'd be careful with the expiration date a little more, though, to give it a good smell. Another thing that people like to do is a lot of people cook this way is leaving the lid on while boiling your wort. So that actually is going to create some off flavors. So don't cover up your boil kettle while in the boil stage of the beer. You can cover it while cooling down the wort, so foreign objects don't get inside there. But it's not a big concern usually for me because I don't. It's usually high up, or I don't let my kids get near it and stuff like that. So I guess watch out for that. But I usually don't cover it when cooling down my wort. But make sure you do not cover it while boiling the wort though. The last one, I've had this video before on a separate note, I believe, but just taking good notes. So taking good notes during the brewing process, fermentation, if it took a couple more days to kick off the fermentation, maybe note why that might have happened. Maybe if you use dry yeast, it might take a couple days longer to start fermenting and bubbling in the airlock. So that could be part of it, but also the tasting notes as well. So all three sections of those notes are important for your next beer. So let's say you mess up something during the boil and you wrote down, well, I think I put the hops in it this time, and you taste it and it seems a little off. Maybe that's what it was. Now, same with tasting though. If it tastes a little off, kind of figure out the best way you can describe that flavor. And you look, I believe I have a video for troubleshooting your homebrew, and figure out where it went wrong in your process. Okay, so taking notes along the whole way is the best way to fix a problem, because it's not like cooking where you can make a cheeseburger and then taste it seconds later and think, oh, this is still raw. I need to cook it longer, or this is too burnt. I need to cook it shorter. Easy to fix. With a brew, you brewed it 2 weeks ago, then you bottled it or kegged it, and you still didn't have it for time after that. You don't remember what you did that day. I mean, if you ever remember that great, I mean, it's probably less than 1% of the population, but I doubt it. So make sure you have good notes to make sure your next brew comes out just as well. Even if you don't brew that same recipe again, you can still kind of come back to figure out what you might have done wrong in the process. So hope that helps for the new homebrewers, or even the veteran ones are the ones that are still just trying to learn and get better at the craft. Thanks for watching. Cheers, and thanks for subscribing. Have a great day.